lifetime for two. So whether you fancy a cruise or an escorted tour, you'll have over 30 worldwide destinations to choose from. But you have to hurry because time is ticking.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. ISIS bride Shamima Begum is now plotting to come back to the United Kingdom through people smugglers. But what would the government do if she arrived on a boat in Dover? Valdo Calocane, the triple murderer of Nottingham, avoided being sectioned in 2020 because he was black, and there was a feeling amongst psychiatrists there were too many black people that had been sectioned. Seems extraordinary. We'll debate it and tell you the full story. Plus, is there going to be a massive U-turn on Chagos as Trump speaks out even more strongly? I made my bid at the weekend to get there and sadly didn't. We'll go live to the beach on Ile de Coin this evening. Before that, and much more. Let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Nigel, thank you, and good afternoon, good evening, in fact, to you, just after 7 o'clock. The top story tonight. MPs have unanimously backed the release of files relating to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's appointment as trade envoy. The government says documents will be published as soon as practicable within the law, but warned some could be withheld because of the live police investigation into alleged misconduct in public office. The former prince, who was released under investigation just last week, has repeatedly denied wrongdoing linked to Jeffrey Epstein. In the Commons, Sir Chris Bryant called him a rude, arrogant and entitled man, while Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey said Andrew had shamed the country.
We as a House will look at ending the archaic negative privilege rules Paul Flynn spoke about. Remove the bandages from our mouths. And today, free of those bandages in relation to Andrew, our motion focuses on finally getting the truth out about his role as Special Representative for Trade and Investment.
Well, that comes as Lord Peter Mandelson's lawyers have tonight said his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office was, they say, triggered by baseless claims that he planned to leave the country. The former cabinet minister was arrested on Monday and later released on bail over allegations he passed sensitive government information to Jeffrey Epstein, which he denies. His legal team says he had already agreed to a voluntary interview and is fully cooperating with police to clear his name. Sir Keir Starmer, though, says Mandelson lied during vetting, while Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy has said he's sorry he was ever appointed.
The Prime Minister has apologised for the appointment of Peter Mandelson. His former Chief of Staff has stood down and taken responsibility for that appointment. As Foreign Secretary at the time, of course, I was subject to collective responsibility, and I am sorry that that decision was made.
Well, now 4 years on from Russia's invasion, European leaders have gathered today to insist that Ukraine is not losing the war. At a meeting of the so-called Coalition of the Willing, Sir Keir Starmer praised Ukraine's resilience and urged allies to defeat what he called the falsehood that Moscow is winning. President Volodymyr Zelensky also warned support must not waver and said allies must help shape any future peace deal. And that comes as the UK today unveiled its largest sanctions package since 2022, targeting the heart of Russia's oil machine. 175 firms and 48 so-called shadow fleet tankers are now under those sanctions. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has said Putin's three-day invasion has become 4 years of failure. Here, the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has said she wants social media to be banned for under-16s. She's accused tech firms of profiting from children's anxiety and vulnerability and said social media is for adults only. She's urging the government to stop dragging its heels.
I'm hoping that we can get him to U-turn on his social media policy. We've got him to U-turn on a few other things. So my next mission is to get him to U-turn on the age limit for social media so we can bring this ban in for children. Let adults do what they want on social media, but children, we need to bring them off it. We don't say children should be able to go into nightclubs because some of them will get fake IDs. We need to stop looking for excuses not to do it and actually just get on and do it.
And in the US, news anchor Savannah Guthrie has said her family is now offering a $1 million reward as the search for her missing mother is entering its fourth week. In an emotional plea, she said they are aching for the 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie's return.
Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. And we are begging you to please come forward now.
Well, police believe she was taken from her home in Arizona against her will and was last seen on the evening of the 31st of January. Her family says they still believe in a miracle, but are acknowledging now she may already be gone. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you at 8 o'clock. Now, though, it's over to Nigel.
Shamima Begum, who left London with two friends and went off age 15 to marry into ISIS. People were absolutely horrified that it could be happening. But what was even more horrifying was in 2019, when she was 19 years old, she gave this interview.
Did you know what Islamic State were doing when you left for Syria? Because they had beheaded people, there were executions.
Yeah, I knew about those things and I was okay with it.
She was okay with British citizens and others and Americans being beheaded. Absolutely okay. Unsurprisingly, the British government, and this doesn't happen very often, but took away her citizenship on the basis she'd chosen her state, Islamic State. But within a couple of years, she'd rather changed her image.
I am asking the British people to forgive me because I made a mistake at a very young age. You know, most young people don't know what they want to do with their lives and they are very confused and they can easily fall into things like this. And I know it's very hard for the British people to try and forgive me because, you know, they've lived in fear of ISIS. They've lost loved ones because of ISIS, but I also have lived in fear of ISIS and I also have lost loved ones because of ISIS, so I can sympathize with them.
So you believe, I guess, what you want to believe. The British government's position has been unchanged since that moment 5 years ago now. And, of course, our friends, the European Court of Human Rights, they've been involved too, questioning whether it was right for us to take away citizenship on the basis that she could have been a victim of trafficking. But now we learn she's planning to escape from the camp she's in Syria. And let's have a look at these text screenshots. So, I understand why, for both you and Shamima, yes, please bring 5,000 gummy bears with you. The American brand is better. That means dollars. That means please bring $5,000 so that we can pay a trafficker to get you out of the camp. And it goes on. Andrew Drury, who has been very heavily involved in all of this from the start, basically says, look, you know, what are you going to do? And basically what they want to do, they want to escape into Turkey, go to the British Embassy and assume that Turkey would deport them from that country back to the UK. Either way, she's plotting Her mates are plotting to get her money, to pay a trafficker, to somehow get her back to the United Kingdom. But what about this? What if they paid the trafficker a bit more money? And what if they put her on a boat somewhere on a northern French beach and she landed at Dover? What would the government do then? Love to get your thoughts on that. Tweet hashtag Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I'm joined in the studio by my regular Tuesday panel. Joe Phillips joins me and Ranald Jayawardena joins me. But first, I'm joined by Emma Schubert, Research Fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, who specialise in rooting out and calling out extremism. From 2019 to 2021, she certainly gave the impression of being a different woman.
Right.
What is the position of the Henry Jackson Society? Should she, because it is unusual that we take away citizenship, what does your society believe we should do?
Well, first of all, she poses two types of risks to the British public. There's an intrinsic risk that someone like her poses and an extrinsic risk. So the intrinsic risk, we need to draw this from evidence that has been brought up into the highest courts of this country. For one thing, there are credible allegations that she was a member of Hisbah. Hisbah was this armed, all-female morality police group on the ground in Raqqa. While the so-called Islamic State was in power, and they were tasked with brutalizing local women for things like not wearing a hijab properly. So we think she was a part of this. There are also credible allegations that she did indeed personally sew suicide vests onto would-be bombers. She's also been desensitized to extreme violence, even remarking in another interview that she did that she wasn't fazed by seeing a severed head in a bin. So these are the intrinsic risks that she poses. MI5 also has been clear that someone like her...
And what if she's repented?
Well, she was with the Islamic State at the height of its barbarity. She did not leave them. She chose not to leave. Now, if she's repented, I think life seems pretty bleak for her. And it probably seems pretty boring. But we also have to realize the extrinsic risk that she poses coming here. There's a very real threat that someone like her would inspire all kinds of copycat attacks because of her notoriety if she was to land back on British soil, even if she was monitored.
No, I don't want her back. I make no bones about it. Jacob Rees-Mogg, who comes on after this, takes a different view. He thinks actually she should come back and face British justice. Joe Phillips, what do you make of this?
Well, I agree with Jacob. I think... You know, the problem is that I think she's utterly manipulative and you cannot believe a word that she says. And there was a really excellent BBC documentary and the reporter who spent an awful long time, that was his conclusion, that she's an ace manipulator. And it's been through all the courts. And, you know, Joshua Rosenberg, friend of this programme, has written extensively about it and explained it. But I think the problem is that you've got, since the overthrow of Assad, you've got, you know, the fragmentation of those refugee camps in Syria. The chance of her being able to get back, disguised, new identity, all the rest of it, is probably quite high and higher than it was now. So wouldn't it be better to bring her back and hold her to justice and then...
And what would the British government do if she arrived in Dover?
Well, I don't know what they would do.
It's very interesting, isn't it, Ron? What would they do?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite troubling, isn't it? I mean, first of all, I happen to think because you can't believe what she says, that she shouldn't be allowed back into this country. I don't think we can trust anything she says. And the concern is that if she ended up on our beaches from the French shores, the government would probably adopt the same approach that they have for thousands of other people and put her in a hotel.
Well, I suspect that's right. I remember going right back, Emma, to the beginning, 2015, of the crossing of the Mediterranean. ISIS then openly said, we will use these routes to smuggle our operatives into Europe, and there is absolute evidence that that has happened, mercifully not in huge numbers, or not in huge numbers that we know of.
That we know of, yeah.
What do you think the British government would do if she lands at Dover?
Probably not much. Probably because of how recognisable she is and her name. If she was discovered, this would create a bit of a media storm. But in terms of holding her to account, let justice take its course, that's not actually realistic, unfortunately, because collecting evidence in a collapsed war zone, and this is before all of Assad, is unrealistic at best. So it's unlikely that she would even be held to account should she be brought back.
And do we think the ECHR could go further? Because they've questioned our decision. Is it possible she could win in Strasbourg?
The ECHR has done some crazy things, so of course it's possible. But hopefully this government maintains its position regardless.
And of course it's possible for the government, as they did with the prisoner voting judgment from the European Court.
Which we ignored.
We ignored it. So it is possible for the government, if it wants to, even if the European Court says that the government's decision was wrong and that she should have her citizenship restored, even then the government could just say no, couldn't they?
And that was the Labour government. The Labour government just ignored it.
Oh, no, that was David Cameron's government most recently.
Well, both actually.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And now Labour could demonstrate that they've actually they're actually taking this issue seriously and that they are defending national security and they could reject the ECHR's decision.
Isn't she a greater risk while she's trying to, gummy bears and all the rest of it, to get in through the back door than actually, OK, go to the embassy in Turkey and we'll have you back and put you...
And what's she going to cost the taxpayer for the rest of her life to look after her?
Yeah, but, you can't use that as an argument. I know you do.
It's an argument.
It is an argument, but that isn't the argument for bringing her to justice.
But it's also not an argument to say, oh, well, we can't keep her out, so therefore we should allow someone that's potentially dangerous back in. That's not an argument either. I mean, this is a really tricky one.
It's a very tricky
because of where we found ourselves.
Yeah.
We've got to hold the line.
Well, we don't want her back, I'm certain of that. Final thought, if I can, Emma. There was a very, very interesting article at the weekend by Matthew Said in the Sunday Times where he wrote about going to a northern town and how balkanised, that was the word that he used, balkanised it had become. Large numbers of women who literally spoke no English at all, weren't encouraged to, total lack of integration. Is this getting worse, this problem?
Of course. Yeah.
And how quickly?
Well, hopefully not as quickly as, by May, we're thinking that we might see a Muslim sectarian sweep if we do not mobilize. These local elections are usually won on very low turnout rates, so there's a chance that we can counteract this. But given the demographics of these wards that are up for election, we're very, very worried about seeing a complete sweep, and balkanization would not be limited to the north.
So sectarian voting could become a lot bigger?
Oh, absolutely. It's expected at this point.
And one of the problems is the attitude towards women, where the household votes, so in other words, the bloke, the father of the house, the head of the household, will vote on top of everybody.
They're all signed up to postal votes.
Exactly.
In many cases.
No, but in many cases, and you hear people say absolutely up front, there's 20 votes in this house, they're all going to X, Y or Z.
I've been banging on about sectarian voting for some years. It is happening, isn't it? Emma's right.
Sadly, this is true, and we've seen the consequences of that in places like Tower Hamlets, where cases have actually been proven in the courts of corruption.
Yeah, no, you're right. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Joining us on the programme. In a moment, we talk about the horrendous Valdo Calocane case. You remember the man from Nottingham, the triple murderer. We learn that he could have been sectioned much earlier than he was, but he wasn't because he was black. I wonder, are psychiatrists ever held to account for their decisions?
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So we're giving them artificial intelligence. What they need at this stage in their lives is real human connections. They need conversations, they need interactions, they need real world experiences. They need to develop their cognitive skills before they can even understand, and their verbal skills, before they can even understand the concept of virtual reality. What is this thing that we've created? And Dawn, you know how it is with ChatGPT. It's very empathetic. It's very supportive. It reinforces you. It doesn't disagree with you. It doesn't break up with you. It doesn't tell you you're wrong. So children and young people are not experiencing those kind of difficult situations. Is it any wonder they're depressed, they're lonely, they're anxious, and they're getting obese.
Lewis, I'll pass it over to you. Is there a positive case to be made for artificial intelligence here? Maybe we look at our biggest competitors like America and China. Will we be putting our kids behind in the race for technology as AI is not going anywhere, is it? Let's be real.
100%. I mean, I think that, look, everything Emma says is right. No one's saying, right, let's get rid of teachers and human interaction and just give them a chatbot. It is just a tool. And if we ban it, we are missing a huge opportunity to really level up kids everywhere. We still have children unable to read and write leaving schools. AI could understand how people are actually learning. It could clock, actually, you know what, I'm not going to show you this as a text because you're a visual learner. I'm going to show you this as a video. Actually, I'm going to give you tailored homework based on the things you haven't actually taken in. It can support teachers and flag that there are issues that need to be looked at, that actually they're really struggling with this or that. There is such potential that we could actually tailor education to the individual child that I think that we would be mad to give that up.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
If the scheming Shamima Begum crosses the channel in a dinghy and gets to Dover, what would the government do? I asked, and you replied. Well, Samuel at least replied, we all know there is a guaranteed way anyone can get into the UK. It's very easy, lucrative and straightforward. Plus, you get a hotel and lots of freebies. Coming here illegally is much easier than all that red tape. Well, that certainly is true. Leanne says Shamima has not committed any crime, nor has she ever been prosecuted. Let her come back to face justice if needed. Well, those two answers, I think, encapsulate both sides of the argument. Let's now talk about a very, very sad matter. Remember the image of this man, Valdo Calocane? Yep, he was the triple murderer. He killed students Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates, all in a violent spree in Nottingham. There is now an inquiry that's been launched, and it will go on, believe it or not, for the next 4 months. But it gets to the very heart of a very tricky but very important issue. What do we do with people who have very serious mental health questions? Rachel Langdale, KC, counsel to the inquiry, said this in the last couple of days. One doctor had been leaning towards sectioning Calocane because it was his first presentation of psychosis. But the team of professionals considered the research evidence that shows over-representation of young black males in detention. Can you actually, folks, watching and listening to this programme, get your heads around that? Over-representation of young black males, therefore, we are not going to section him. And he went on to murder. Well, earlier on today, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, the father of Grace, who was murdered, said this on GB News.
So the first sectioning doctors have said through their representatives that they were reluctant to section Valdo Calocane because he was black and because the Royal College of Psychiatrists has this sort of mantra that there are too many black people being sectioned. As a doctor, what I have heard from colleagues who are psychiatrists, they also can't quite believe the fact that all of this stuff about race keeps getting suppressed by the Royal College, and they literally are just into demography rather than illness.
Well, very powerful words. I'm joined down the line by Brendan O'Neill, Spike's chief political writer who's written on this very subject. Brendan, tell us what you've said in your article.
I mean, it's such a shocking thing to hear on the first day of the inquiry that Valdo Calocane was not sectioned because of his race. I mean, that's the headline even in The Guardian. They have to be very frank about what happened here, which is that in 2020, 3 years before he committed that atrocity in Nottingham, he was not sectioned because he was black. And the mental health professionals judged that there were too many young black men in custody, so they should let him out into the community. I think what this shows is just how dangerous wokeness can be. We all know that wokeness is annoying and irritating and censorious, but it's also pretty lethal, because when judgments like this are being made on the basis of race, on the basis of what is politically correct, rather than on the basis of what is good for the people of Britain, then we're in serious trouble.
Yeah, I think, Brendan, this illustrates that very clearly. The other point that is tricky. Remember in the old days, we used to lock everybody up with mental health issues in institutions. And we decided in the 60s to begin a policy of care in the community. And we understand why. We wanted to be more, we wanted to be a more civilised society than institutionalising everybody. But I'm very, very struck that in every walk of life, you ought to be held accountable for the decisions that you take. There are roughly 100 people a year who are murdered in Britain by people with serious mental health conditions. I was, for a long period of time, threatened by somebody who served a short period in prison and then was out free on the streets. There doesn't seem, Brendan, in this, and maybe the inquiry will prove me wrong, there doesn't seem to be any accountability for the police or the psychiatrists in any of this.
Well, that's one of the serious problems we face in the 21st century. There's never a reckoning with the people who make the terrible decisions and who make the wrong judgment. You're absolutely right. This is a difficult issue. We don't want to go back to the old asylum situation where people were locked up willy-nilly despite never having committed a crime. We don't want to go back there, but we do have to ask, what do we do with people who are displaying signs of psychosis? And Valdo Calocane was displaying signs of violent psychosis. That is what he was judged to be suffering from, and yet he was let back out. The people who make these decisions have to answer for them. But Nigel, you know this better than most people. This is not the only incident where wokeness takes precedence over public safety. Look at the rape gang scandal, where officials turned a blind eye because they didn't want to be thought of as Islamophobic. Or look at the way in which male rapists have been put into women's jails because it's transphobic to put them into male jails. I mean, we have so many mad decisions being made by people who are more concerned with appearing virtuous than they are with defending ordinary Brits. And the people who make these calls really do have to be called to judgment for it.
Brendan, beautifully put. Thank you very much indeed. Difficult, I would suggest, Joe Phillips, to disagree with much of that.
No, he's absolutely right. People are never held accountable, and we know what...
Almost for anything.
For anything. And, you get... This is a very extreme, but nobody was held accountable for Hillsborough. Nobody has been held accountable for the post office. Nobody's held accountable for so many things. But I think, there's a danger of going down the rabbit hole of attacking the psychiatrists, who have got an awful lot to answer for, and forgetting or letting off the hook the police.
I know, I don't wish to do that.
Have been absolutely atrocious. I mean, they've lost material, they've lost body cam footage. There was a woman that he attacked who was so frightened he broke into her house several years before this murderous rampage.
Yes.
She jumped out of the window, broke her back.
Yeah.
And the police...
the evidence of psychosis and violence was very, very clear.
And his mother apparently begged for people to take him back into care. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Ranald, do you think the worm's turning on this? I mean, this case was a few years ago, this judgment, we're going back now 5 or 6 years. Do you think we're beginning, perhaps, to shed this obsession with race and not treading on the areas that might be too difficult, or is it just as bad as it was?
I worry that we're no better off. Clearly it's great that we are talking about this because we're beginning to expose the problems when we put political correctness ahead of public safety.
Yeah.
But, it's the same as with stop and search, isn't it? Where in London, the police are told, don't stop young black men because we can't have our statistics showing that we're searching more young black men proportionally than the rest of the population, even if more young black men are both likely to carry a knife, but also likely to suffer a stabbing and be seriously hurt.
Several times more likely.
Exactly. So it's actually in everyone's interest, including the black community, for stop and search. And so I do worry we're no further forward, because there's so many people on the left still saying, no, this is victimisation, it's profiling, it's wrong. And they are the ones who are wrong. This is a real failure in our system.
Well, it is.
Today.
And there was also one of the doctors in 2020 actually wrote down there was a danger that Calocane might, and I quote, end up killing someone.
Yeah, I know. So if you actually picked up a car from the garage and they said, don't drive it, Mr. Farage, because I think something might go wrong, you probably wouldn't drive it, would you? It is just unbelievable. And this casual disregard for the possible consequences. So 3 people, 3 families, absolutely destroyed. The police have lied continually to the parents and the families of these people, saying, oh, no, they didn't. He'd never committed acts. There'd never been any complaints.
Which is not true.
He'd attacked workmates and the police were called.
So that poor girl had a broken back, as you mentioned.
And, you know, they mysteriously lost the evidence. It's just appalling.
Well, I think it's shocking, actually, in every single way. And I don't know, Joe, do you think that a 4-month inquiry is the way to deal with this?
Well, you know, I'm not very fond of public inquiry. Although, actually, you know, 4 months is relatively short. And I think for something like this, it is probably quite useful, because it's bringing out stuff that was not, you know...
Well, I hope you're right. Final word on this.
But we know we'll go, oh, you know, lessons have been learned, you know, and all of that stuff.
Does any good ever come out of these inquiries, Ranald?
Sometimes, yes. For example, the Post Office inquiry, you know, it's right, we need more accountability. Sir Ed Davey, leader of the Liberal Democrats, was Postal Services Minister, and is currently off the hook on this, but, you know, people need to hold him accountable. And it's only because of the Post Office inquiry that was commissioned by Paul Scully.
Many people were found guilty have now got their innocence proven.
Indeed.
So good can come.
Yeah.
Good can come, but... I sense, given the slight scepticism on this panel, rarely. In a moment, we talk about the entrepreneur exodus from this country. We'll also touch on how the EU might be good for smokers.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Spring is certainly in the air across many parts of Europe, warm and sunny, but for Cyprus, for parts of Greece, remaining reasonably breezy, some high wind gusts certainly through the Greek islands, and plenty of showers for the islands of Greece as well as Cyprus. Meanwhile, Italy, for much of France into Spain and Portugal, long spells of sunshine with the exception of Portugal on Wednesday, and well above average temperatures, and it remains that way for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, if you thought today was mild for the time of year, well, tomorrow is going to be even warmer, particularly in parts of the southeast. Meanwhile, towards the north and west, yes, we do have quite a bit of cloud. There's quite a bit of rain around at the moment. A waving frontal structure is bringing the more unsettled weather here, and that rain is going to edge further south and eastwards across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, even affecting some parts of Western Wales and southwest England as we go through the night. But across much of England and Wales, it will stay dry. There will be some clear skies, so temperatures could drop a fair amount, lows of around 6 or 7 Celsius. And do watch out, there could be some mist and fog patches, particularly around parts of eastern England, but also around some southern counties as well. A wet start to the day, though, across much of Scotland, particularly towards the west, even further east. It's going to be quite cloudy, a bit murky at times, and there could be some rain pushing through. The heaviest rain will be over higher ground towards western parts, where rainfall totals will continue to build up after today's rain. Also a wet start across Northern Ireland, some western parts of Wales and southwest England having outbreaks of rain, but across many parts of England and Wales it's a dry start. There'll be some brightness around, but like I said, some mist and fog as well. That cloud and rain continues across northern and western areas as we go through tomorrow. Towards the southeast, the greatest chance of staying largely sunny, lots of blue skies, and as I mentioned at the start, temperatures even higher than today. We're looking at highs around 17, 18, possibly 19 Celsius here. Further north and west, well, temperatures will be lower because of the cloud and the rain. Speaking of rain, more of that to come as we go into Thursday. A weather system pushing its way in from the west. Again, the heaviest rain likely to be across northern and western parts, with southeastern areas seeing much less in the way of the wet stuff. As we go through later this week and into the weekend, well, Friday looks changeable as well. Saturday, well, signs of it being a bit drier for many.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Thursday, the voters of Gorton and Denton go to the polls, and GB News will be there every step of the way. Is this a local contest or a national warning shot? Join me, Tom Harwood, as the ballots are counted and the result declared.
We'll bring you all the reaction and analysis.
And what it means for the future of British politics.
Vote 2026, the people decide. Throughout the night on Thursday, here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Rachel Reeves, our Chancellor, and we'll hear much more from her next week with the spring statement on Tuesday. She has been very, very clear as to where she believes the government stands in regard to risk takers and entrepreneurs. Reeves has said this government backs our entrepreneurs. That's why we're overhauling the rule book, modernising tax incentives, unlocking billions in investment and making it easier for founders to hire, build and grow. Because when British businesses thrive, so does our economy. Well, it sounds terrific. Just the trouble is, virtually everything she's done is actually anti-people going out, setting up businesses, taking risks. Even little things. Like if you're self-employed at the moment, you have to once a year submit accounts. That will now become 4 times a year. Just one little example of things that are getting harder and harder. I haven't even started on employment taxes, which are now, has left us for the first time, I think ever, certainly in modern times, with more youth unemployment than the rest of the European Union. And it goes on getting worse and worse and worse. And now we learn that 6,000 owners of high-growth businesses have left the United Kingdom over the course of the last 2 years. And guess where they've gone? The United Arab Emirates or America. And this is the point about the exodus. It isn't just the billionaires that are leaving. It isn't just those super high net worth individuals that are leaving. It's now the 30-somethings. It's now the big risk takers. It's those with businesses they've got developed and are starting to move. And frankly, I just don't think this government even understands what it's doing. Ranel, these numbers are really, really, really bad. So it's entrepreneurs going, they're taking their companies with them, they're taking their wealth with them. It's a disaster, isn't it?
Yes, it's very sad. It's sad for our country. It's sad for everyone across our country who will suffer as a result. I was with some people in the City of London earlier today, and they were saying how the culture of the city of the last 25 years has changed so dramatically, and particularly in the last 18 months, where sentiment is so negative. International investors no longer looking to Britain as a place to raise capital. International businesses, including those who might have a presence here, no longer looking to list. And yes, entrepreneurs who are actually the crucial part of our growth story over the years ahead, leaving not only for the UAE and the US, but other European countries like Spain and Italy and Malta. It can be done.
Who would have thought, Joe, who would have thought that other European Union countries would now be more competitive on tax and indeed regulation than we are.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's fair to point out that whilst there were 6,000 left, there were also 3,000 came in, so it's a net loss.
Yeah, but everything's net loss.
I know it's a net loss, but there were still people coming here. It's not like, some of those bases. And they are young people, as you said. They're young people, so they're mobile, they're able to set up, they're in the tech sector, which is very agile, very flexible. But it is interesting the places that they're going to. And I'm glad you mentioned Europe, Ranald, because they're not just going like everyone else to Dubai.
Well, I mean, in Italy, of course, very, very cleverly, Meloni offered this special tax rate for foreigners. Thousands went, so she doubled it. Thousands went, she's put it up again. And renting an apartment in Milan now is incredibly expensive and very, very difficult, mostly because of Brits that have moved there.
But if you make it good on all offers, whether it's accommodation, whether it's lifestyle, whatever it is, people are going to go.
But is she capable of learning?
I think Rachel Reeves is, sadly, I think she's an absolute disaster. And I think the problem is, as is so often, and it's not particular to Labour, but it is particularly evident in this government, but the last lot weren't much better, there is such a lack of business experience, real business experience.
There's none.
And it doesn't matter. But if you think back, people who had they'd either been in the services or they had worked in business. But most people...
Or risen up through charities or trade unions or whatever they'd done.
But now, it is that pathway which has become so narrow. You go to university, you work for an MP.
It's a disaster.
You become an MP.
It's a disaster.
And you don't know anything. But, of course, there is no excuse, because if you're in your constituency talking to people, you should be hearing it.
You'd have thought so, but I'm not sure all MPs listen. Now, what the Farage moment? The Windsor Framework, which was put into place, which, of course, the Northern Irish have moaned, or many of them, bitterly about for years, could now be good for smokers. Why? Because the British government have passed a moronic law, in my view, that says anyone born after 2009 can never, ever buy legally tobacco products. But because Northern Ireland is, of course, inside all of the single market rules, we now find Croatia, the Czech Republic, Greece, Italy, Portugal, Romania and Slovakia do not want a piece of law like this in their countries. It could be, Ranald, that the European Union turns out to be a liberating force for smokers in Britain. What say you?
Who would have thought it? Nigel Farage lauding the European Union.
It almost sounds like a Bremner Bird and Fortune story. Thank God for Europe. Aren't they marvellous?
Marvellous. Light up.
It does show what a mess Northern Ireland's in, doesn't it?
Yes, terrible, terrible. But, what a dreadful agreement.
What, the Windsor Framework? Well, actually, do you know what? Right from the very start, Northern Ireland was used by Monsieur Barnier, and they led us, didn't they, all the way?
Yeah.
And Boris Johnson ignored it.
The technological solution was available, and the EU blocked it.
Yeah, there was, in fact, even before Brexit happened, there was a European Parliament document produced how the border could work using modern technology.
Which works between the US and Canada, works with many countries around the world.
And Ranald, Boris Johnson paid no attention.
Well, I'm afraid Theresa May wasted 3 years, and that's why we are where we are.
I'm afraid so. Now, before we move on, tonight at midnight, please don't miss the Late Show Live with Bev Turner. President Trump will be delivering his State of the Union address, and GB News will be live in Washington to bring you all the latest. So tune in to GB News tonight for The Late Show, live from midnight. I can tell you I have sat in the gallery for a State of the Union speech with Trump. It is like reality TV. You may love it, you may hate it. I promise you one thing, it will not be boring. In a moment, could there be a U-turn? Another U-turn, this time on the Chagos Island surrender.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Yes, I flew last Thursday down to the Maldives. You may have seen some clips of me, such as this one.
British government, the High Commissioner here, they're doing everything they can. They've got search parties out trying to find me, and they do not want me to leave this place. Quite why Starmer has this obsession with getting rid of the Chagos Islands, I don't know.
Well, I didn't get to the Chagos Islands, sadly. A combination of continuing threats from the British government made me worry that if I got on a boat that was taking supplies and essentially performing a humanitarian mission, we might get arrested on the basis that it was political. That and other logistical reasons. But I did spend some time talking to very senior figures in the Maldives who are more opposed to this deal than I am. They say historically they're the people with the link to the Chagos Islands. They're the people that have always done the trade with the Chagos Islands. They also say that this vast area of the Indian Ocean has been stable for decades. But if the Starmer deal goes through, they fear there'll be a battle that goes on between India and China for supremacy of the region. They're genuinely very, very worried about it. Donald Trump, of course, in the last few days has spoken out again even more strongly. Do not give away Diego Garcia. Is it possible that we're going to get a U-turn? Now, the First Minister of Chagos, Ms. Lee Mandarin, had this to say yesterday.
For too long, decisions about Diego Garcia were made in distant capitals without our voice, without our consent. That era is over. If the United States decides that action is needed to defend international order, then as the elected government of this island, we give our permission for the use of Diego Garcia in defense of peace secured through strength.
So there we are. I'm now joined live from the beach on Ile de Coin by Ms. Lee Mandarin, the First Minister of Chagos, and Adam Holloway, military veteran and, of course, former Conservative Member of Parliament. Some lighting problems there this evening, but that doesn't matter. We're going to carry on with this. Ms. Lee, I'm going to start with you. Very clear what you said there. You're very pro the Americans staying in Diego Garcia, and I understand you even want to name one of the islands after Donald Trump.
Yes, Nigel, good evening to GBNews viewers as well. Yes, of course, we are friends and brother in arm with the United States. And I gave as First Minister of this island, Chagos Island, behind the U.S. and I've give full backing for President Trump to use Diego Garcia. And I don't see no reason why Keir Starmer want to give those beautiful British islands away to Mauritius. And we came here without using any British taxpayers' money.
Yeah, and you've been there for a bit. And Adam Holloway, one thinks of the programme, oh, have we lost the line? Mm-hmm. Oh, that is sad. We've lost the line. Last week it worked absolutely beautifully. What do you make of your former colleague? I mean, I think of the TV programmes, Survivor, Castaway. I mean, they're all rolled into one. And it seems that Holloway's having the time of his life.
He's a great man. He always was a great man. And, he's performing a great national and international service in enabling this to happen. We discussed the legality issue last time, and that remains clear. But, the fact that he's enabled Misli Mandarin and other Chagosians to raise this issue internationally and make sure it is in the media still now, to make a clear statement that actually the Americans should be able to use Diego Garcia against the wishes of Mauritius, this is invaluable.
Yeah, bear with me, Joe. We're going back to Ile-de-Coin. Adam, I was just saying, in your absence, that, Castaway, Survivor, you've got the whole lot rolled into one. Tell me, how are the Chagosians bearing up?
Thank you. I will in a moment. But Misli's point just now, he has got far better judgment than Keir Starmer. Misli is very much in favour of the base here being used in support of the ordinary Iranian people, which is, quite remarkable. And what is going on? How crazy have we become in Britain? We've got a so-called human rights lawyer denying the rights of these people in favour of Mauritius. Has got really nothing to do with this island. People who were seen as the oppressor of these guys. I mean, Antoine and Michelle, who are in bed in the tent behind me, they arrived in Mauritius after we expelled them from where they had lived here to a dockside where there was nothing. They lived for years in a house that had been a building that had been occupied by animals. They foraged in bins because their parents couldn't get jobs to work. So I find it extraordinary. As you can see, Missy and I are, and indeed Pascal behind with the camera, we are dealing with a big insect problem. This is not luxury living. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, we're okay. We had a big downpour of water today, which was good. So all our containers of water are full. We do still have an issue about finding sufficient water, which will limit our ambition, because obviously Misli wants to get dozens, if not hundreds of people onto these islands in the next few months, and we have the resources to do that. But water is our big problem. We have bought yesterday a solar-powered machine, which is being brought in from the Netherlands, which can produce 50 litres an hour, which would solve that problem. But it's all about what you said, Nigel. It's about being able to resupply these islands, for life support, if nothing else.
But you've still got the removal orders, of course, placed on the Chagosians, and the British government still saying there's an exclusion zone and that British passport holders can't land on the island. Chaps, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I'm pleased it's rained. I'm pleased you can drink, and good luck with the project.
Nigel, just before that, the irony, isn't it? I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable that these people, his dad's born here, cannot stay on their island of their choice as British passport holders. I mean, what has happened to our country? And the other thing as well, if you can't stay there, if you go back to England as Chagosian.
We have lost them. Well, Holloway, extraordinary stuff, isn't it? I mean, this is some story, isn't it?
He is in his element, isn't he? I mean, this is, you know, Boy Scouts. It's
But he's a former army officer.
Lord
He's been
of the
in the war.
Flies gone completely over the top.
It's great, though, isn't it?
Absolutely fantastic. I do worry, because we know Misley very well, and I think he's being incredibly brave and he is very powerful in his love for his homeland. The passion is amazing. But I don't want him to become a media puppet. And he needs to be careful about what he says and how he behaves. And it's fine to say, you know, I'm the First Minister and you can go and bomb Iran from here. But I think, you know, international diplomacy is a bit more serious. And I think if you're going to I think if you're going to do this stuff, Nigel, you've got to be prepared to take the brick back.
But he, of course, can see, Misley can see... that if Trump sticks to his last position on this, that effectively the whole thing's over.
But presumably, you know, now is the time, as we've said before, for the government to stop, pause it, go back, have a rethink, as William Hague wrote excellently in the Times.
Well, I do feel, and by the way, thank you for joining me, both of you, this evening. I do feel things are turning. And I certainly, as I say, I was surprised just how vociferous the government in the Maldives were on this issue. Jacob, this would be a huge U-turn. I still don't understand why.
No, but what's happening now is really important because it's reminding everybody that the actual scandal of Chagos was removing the Chagosians. It was never whether it belonged to Mauritius or not. It was that we resettled people, which is something in the modern age we would have dreamt of doing.
Actually, we didn't do that. We dumped them.
We dumped them,
We dumped them on the quayside. And I was told at the weekend, had it not been for the Roman Catholic Church, hundreds of them would have starved to death.
Oh, well, that's very nice to know, because I know a very good priest of Mauritian origin, so I hope that his family were involved.
In a few seconds, Jacob,
well, I'm going to be talking about Richard Tice's announcement of what I think is very exciting economic policy. It's just the sort of thing we want to hear. It's going to be a love-in, I think, between the two of us.
Very good. Well, there you are. Now, some of you today will have seen something very, very rare, almost never seen before. It was called the sun. Come on, give us more. Let's have a look at the weather.
Expect warm spells, the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. If you thought today was mild for the time of year, well, tomorrow is going to be even warmer, particularly in parts of the southeast. Meanwhile, towards the north and west, yes, we do have quite a bit of cloud. There's quite a bit of rain around at the moment. A waving frontal structure is bringing the more unsettled weather here, and that rain is going to edge further south and eastwards across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, even affecting some parts of Western Wales and southwest England as we go through the night. But across much of England and Wales, it will stay dry. There will be some clear skies, so temperatures could drop a fair amount, lows of around 6 or 7 Celsius. And do watch out, there could be some mist and fog patches, particularly around parts of eastern England, but also around some southern counties as well. A wet start to the day, though, across much of Scotland, particularly towards the west, even further east. It's going to be quite cloudy, a bit murky at times, and there could be some rain pushing through. The heaviest rain will be over higher ground towards western parts, where rainfall totals will continue to build up after today's rain. Also a wet start across Northern Ireland, some western parts of Wales and southwest England having outbreaks of rain, but across many parts of England and Wales it's a dry start. There'll be some brightness around, but like I said, some mist and fog as well. That cloud and rain continues across northern and western areas as we go through tomorrow. Towards the southeast, the greatest chance of staying largely sunny, lots of blue skies, and as I mentioned at the start, temperatures even higher than today. We're looking at highs around 17, 18, possibly 19 Celsius here. Further north and west, well, temperatures will be lower because of the cloud and the rain. Speaking of rain, more of that to come as we go into Thursday. A weather system pushing its way in from the west. Again, the heaviest rain likely to be across northern and western parts, with southeastern areas seeing much less in the way of the wet stuff. As we go through later this week and into the weekend, well, Friday looks changeable as well. Saturday, well, signs of it being a bit drier for many.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win £30,000 in tax-free cash. You wouldn't need to treat yourself to a holiday. There's also a terrific £10,000 to spend on a Riviera travel holiday of a lifetime for two. So whether you fancy a cruise or an escorted tour, you'll have over 30 worldwide destinations to choose from. But you have to hurry because time is ticking.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the